Hello, and welcome to Japanese Craft Beer Reviews. Today we're going to start, I guess we can call it a tangent, a series of beers that are not craft beer, are Japanese, not craft, but from the four major companies, and also one other unusual characteristic. They are either low or non-alcoholic. And I'm going to be taking a look at all of the beers that the four Japanese majors make, and those four are Asahi, Kirin, Sapporo, and Suntory. And we'll look at all the available beers that are non-alcoholic from them, except one which hasn't quite made it to my area yet, which is a new one. Non-alcoholic beer or low alcoholic beer, of course, has a very long history. In medieval Europe, it was something that was called small beer, and it's been around in many countries for a long time. During Prohibition in the United States, beer was made under 5%, and of course, homebrew was made. So the temperance movement had an effect on the production of beer. Of course, it eliminated beer production, and people were looking for something that tasted like beer. In 1990, Anheuser-Busch produced O'Doul's, which became a big hit, and Miller had their Sharps beer as well. This kind of beer is very popular in certain countries in Europe, Germany in particular, and of course in the Middle East, where alcohol is frowned on or banned. It's non-alcohol beer is one half of all sales of beer. And we'll be looking at the characteristics of non-alcohol beer, and then in different countries which are popular brands, and then finally Japan. These beers are commonly lagers, but nowadays you'll find pale ales, IPAs, stouts, wheats, sours, all kinds. And I'll put a link to an article, a couple of articles actually, in the description section, so you can read more about this if you like. In many countries, non-alcoholic beer is by far the fastest growing sector, and that is true in Japan as well. Young Japanese are not drinking alcohol as much as their elders have, and beer sales have been declining for like 16 years in a row. And in fact, a bar opened in Tokyo called 0%, and it's apparently the first complete non-alcohol bar in the country. It's popular for its health benefits, of course, but unpopular among many people for a variety of reasons, and the most common is the taste defects. The processes that are used to make non-alcohol beer lead to a loss of aromatic esters, which are a prime feature of the aroma in beer, and also changes some other compounds as well. So basically, two ways of producing non-alcohol beer, and one of them is restricting fermentation, and the other is removing the ethanol alcohol from the beer. And restriction of fermentation can take a variety of forms. I won't go into all of them. Some of them are, for example, interrupting the fermentation, or cold fermentation to very low temperature fermentation to inhibit the production of alcohol. Special yeasts to try to produce a low alcohol beer. And ethanol removal, there are a number of ways to do it: vacuum evaporation, vacuum distillation, extracting through membranes, filtration, reverse osmosis, so many different types. And I read a few articles about this, and I didn't quite understand many of them. So in any case, breweries, there are a number of breweries that have produced beers these days, and you can find them listed many places, and you can find them in your market probably. Brewdog has produced Nanny State, Weihenstephaner, Hefeweizen, alcohol-free is another one. Rate Beer didn't allow them before, but now they do under low or no alcohol beer, and they have three categories: pale, dark, and wheat. And so a variety of very respected breweries are producing these. Weird Beard, Tiny Rebel, Schlenkerla, the smoked beer mavens in Germany, Mikkeller, and here in Japan recently, Kyoto Brewing, one of my favorites, Kyoto Brewing, produced a 1% Saison, and which is just maybe a little bit too high to be considered, but actually I think on Rate Beer it's up to 3% for low alcohol. So, and the beer is called Rebel Without a Cause. In Japanese it's Waka Genotari, which is translated as youthful indiscretion. So 1% Saison even. And some of the beers that we'll look at are made without fermentation. They're called beer taste inro, or beer taste beverage. And in general, the limit to be considered in this category is up to 0.5%. And we're going to look at a number of beers from these four Japanese breweries. In 2009, Kirin brought out their Kirin Free, which is a big hit. And then Asahi brought out their Dry Zero. Asahi Super Dry was the most popular beer in Japan. It still may be, I'm not sure, Super Dry. And they brought out Dry Zero, and that became #1 in sales for all non-alcohol beers, and I think it is currently. Asahi has 3 that we'll look at. Kirin has 4, and Suntory also has 4, and Sapporo 2. And we're going to look at 4 other beers that are contracted beers for the Japanese market. When there's one more by Asahi, which is called Brewery, B-E-R-E-R-Y, and it's been released in certain areas of Japan, but not where I live, so we'll look at that a little bit later. Okay, so we're going to start with Asahi, 3 alcohol-free beers from Asahi, and then we'll move on to Kirin, and then Sapporo and Suntory. Okay, and let's see what we get. Okay, I can't say I'm really looking forward to this, but we'll give it a go. Okay. And now we move on to Sapporo Breweries and their non-alcohol beers, and we're going to look at only 2 because that's all that they make these days. Only 2. Some of the other breweries make 4 or 3 varieties, and so we're going to look at Sapporo's today. And the first one is this one. It's simply called Sapporo Premium Alcohol-Free, and it is alcohol 0.00%. And the tagline is, enjoy the pleasant time of non-alcoholic anytime. Taste the mellow bitterness of fine aroma hops and the rich flavor of 100% malt mash. So, are we assuming that this is actually a fermented beer or not? Well, we'll see. Rate Beer has no ratings whatsoever for this one. Untapped has 145 separate ratings, and the average score for this one is 1.87 out of 5. And apparently before I was even looking, before this series, I really wasn't paying any attention to non-alcohol beers, and after, I may not either. But apparently they used to make a black version of this, and the last rating of that was on Untapped is from 2018. So, I haven't seen it these days at all, and that might have been tastier. We'll see. Anyway, shall we give this a go? Sapporo Premium Alcohol-Free. I'm just about done with this whole series, 17 beers, and actually it turns out there's 18. I found another one recently. So this is typically completely clear, pretty substantial carbonation rising up. Generally, these beers don't have a lot of carbs. Sometimes they have the little poppy seeds on the side, that collect on the side and then foam up. Thin, filmy, white head. Aroma. Yeah. Very typical kind of rude fruitiness. Like most of these, this is actually fruitier than most. Maybe it has a little bit of apple, some grapes, maybe a touch of raisin or something that's lightly darker sort of fruit. Raisins, cherries. The aroma's not terrible, but the flavor, wow. This is like completely denatured, iced out fruit, where all the flavor was taken away and we left with the dregs. Slightly rotten fruit, rotten vegetable fruit. Not that I eat those, but what you imagine it might be like some cardboard. Yeah, this is not the worst of the bunch, that's for sure. There's some really bad ones out there. And among beer geek friends of mine, they generally tend to regard Sapporo as the best of the four majors. A friend of mine who's a really good brewer, he really likes Sapporo lagers. So in any case, you may want to try this. It's not the worst one, but it's certainly not great. It's called Sapporo Premium Alcohol-Free 0.00% alcohol beer from Sapporo Breweries. We've got one more that we're going to look at, and that'll be the last from the four major breweries, and I hope you come in to see that one as well. Please subscribe to the channel, and you can leave me a comment, and I will reply. Not immediately, probably, but eventually I certainly will reply to you. Hope you're doing well. Take care.